Out of all the different topics that I thought I'd be making a video on, this honestly wasn't one of them. This is also one of those situations where when I first heard the news, I just honestly didn't believe it. I thought it was just your typical internet misinformation, maybe they put the wrong name in the headline or something, and it also didn't really help the way I found out about this. I was literally just scrolling through TikTok and got to a video of someone just staring at the screen with text on the screen saying I can't believe Twomad just died. And just like him, I was in the exact same boat, especially considering the video came from TikTok, so I went to go look it up and check a couple other sources, and it turns out that it is true. The popular internet creator Twomad died at age 23. Now of course we'll be getting into a bit more of the details and pretty much how everyone's been reacting to this, but right quick before we even get into that, I want to start with the article pretty much talking about what happened. Now I'm not too sure I'm going to pronounce his name right, but it says Medea Sedek, a popular YouTuber who goes by Twomad online, has died, TMZ has learned. Law enforcement sources tell us the internet personality who has millions of followers across his various YouTube channels and social pages was found unresponsive Tuesday night at his Los Angeles area home. This after somebody called in to ask for a welfare check. We're told Twomad hadn't been heard from in several days by concerned parties, and he had even missed some appointments. As a result, the LAPD was sent to check in on him, and that's when they found his body. Although it's unclear how long he'd been in that state, our sources say there was drug paraphernalia found on the scene, and at this point, we're told this is being investigated as a possible overdose. No foul play is suspected in the death. So like you've seen from that article, it gives a pretty good explanation of where this situation is at right now. The main suspected cause as of right now for his death is a drug overdose. They don't necessarily know what drug yet, or if that's even the reason, they just suspect it, but I guess they haven't done a full toxicology report or anything yet, so they can't necessarily say what it is at this time. I also don't want to be a full speculation Andy or anything, but if it was a drug overdose, I can't help but think it had to be something like fentanyl, because not only has that drug been super prevalent at the time and responsible for a ton of other overdoses, he has said a decent amount of time in previous streams that he's doing drugs like fentanyl and stuff like that. Pretty much no one really took this at face value and believed it at all though, because of the type of content he makes. And speaking of that, if you also don't know who Twomad is, he pretty much gained a ton of popularity from his meme Overwatch compilations he used to make. It'd just be kind of short, silly, wacky videos with funny music in the background and a ton of funny mashed up clips. Even after he stopped making the Overwatch content, he did still make meme type content, and pretty much all of his memes were a bit more on the, I guess you could call it edgy side, so no one really took anything he ever said too seriously. But moving back into the report, I wanted to talk about how long it took people to find out that he was actually dead. Like the report said, once the police got there, they pretty much already found him dead, and they say that they're not too sure how long he was there, but what I've seen from a lot of other sources, they pretty much say the last online status they seen from him was his Discord profile, and it said he was online playing Overwatch for I think it was 5 or 6 days. So with that information, you can pretty easily say that he had to be dead there for at least 5 days before anyone even noticed. And the worst part about this is it's not even a family member or a friend or something like that noticed and called in the wellness check. The only reason they really even found out that he was dead is because he missed some of his medical appointments, and I'm pretty sure they called it in instead. So just thinking about that, imagine he didn't have those medical appointments. There's no telling how long he would have been dead before someone even noticed. But moving on, one of the biggest things I want to talk about out of this whole situation is the public's reaction to this. The reaction to this was almost as surprising to me as his death. But just like any other popular person that dies, of course there's your average people who are of course pretty upset about it and pretty sad, because when it comes down to it, he was pretty popular and did influence a ton of people. But where it gets super surprising to me is that there are a ton of people who are also celebrating his death. Now like I said, this is pretty surprising to me because I haven't really heard anything about Twomad in a while. Pretty much the last thing I heard from him was his Overwatch meme compilations, and at that time he had a pretty good reputation and a ton of people loved him. He even inspired a ton of different people to start editing and start YouTube channels of their own. But apparently from that time until now, he's had a ton of not too favorable allegations against him, and people's opinions on him have become pretty divided. But one of the biggest allegations that people have pretty much been mainly basing their opinions off of came out recently, and I think it was actually 2 hours after he died, and that's the one we're going to be talking about today. Also, right quick, before I even start reading it off, I do want to make it a big point that as of right now, these are all just allegations. There's been pretty much no proof at all to accompany any of these. A lot of people are also pretty upset and saying that it's just a crummy thing to do to upload a ton of allegations about someone right after they died and when they can't defend themselves at all. Also, the person uploading these allegations has also had previous beef with Twomad for a while. But getting into it, it was a post by Jameski and it says, "I can finally say it. Twomad was a rapist and a pedophile. Over the past few years, he tried to murder me multiple times for helping the police and detectives in multiple states to investigate a lot of the horrible things he's done. He wanted to take out multiple innocent lives by getting behind a wheel and going head-on freeway while being high on illegal drugs. He didn't succeed once as he overdosed before killing anybody, so he tried it again. Despite him trying to murder me and multiple innocent lives, I've been trying to help law enforcement to make sure he's safe, doesn't get hurt, and doesn't harm anybody. Please remember that he's a rapist and a pedophile. He continued to prey on the vulnerable even after the police got involved, including a 13-year-old in mental hospital. The tragedy doesn't excuse any of his actions. I will address a lot of the stuff when I fully collect my thoughts. Past few months have been a total mess and reason why I ended up in ER. Please give me time." Now, like you've seen from that post, these are obviously some super serious allegations. And this is probably honestly most of the reason that a ton of people are actually happy that he's dead. Which I kind of personally think is also just a bit messed up. Like, sure, these allegations do look like horrible. They're like some pretty bad things. But I feel like people also just aren't looking deep enough into this. This situation is pretty new and still developing, so it may come out that these allegations are true. But as of right now, they are just allegations and people are really taking these at face value. Like, I feel like at this point, people on the internet would have learned that as messed up as it is and as much as you don't want to ever really like end up in the situation where you're pretty much just automatically not believing the victim, we've seen so many cases on the internet and especially recently of false allegations. Like I said, I'm obviously not saying that these allegations aren't true. What I am trying to say is that they are still allegations right now and they have no concrete evidence behind them. So I do feel like it is kind of unfair to pretty much make fun of and be happy that someone's dead over something that hasn't even been proved yet. Especially when those allegations are coming from someone who already didn't like him and they already had a ton of previous beef. And speaking of people making fun of him, I guess this is just the internet and they literally can't take anything seriously or give it any time to simmer. In the past like 12 hours alone, just scrolling through TikTok, literally any video that I find about Twomad is just completely clowning his death. It's crazy how many jokes and memes people have made already. He hasn't even been dead for an entire day. People have been commenting stuff like "too mad, too bad," he went from playing Overwatch to overdose, and a ton of other things. It's honestly crazy. Like I said, I guess it's just the internet. This has been going on for like the longest. People just joking about everything and not really giving it any time to settle before they start making the jokes. But it's getting to the point where a ton of people that are finding out about this information aren't even finding out about it from like YouTube or a news source or something like that. They're finding it out from different like memes and stuff posted on TikTok. Going back to Jameski's post though, he did say he'll be going into a lot more detail on this once he gathers all his thoughts, and I guess that means that he'll possibly be bringing some sort of evidence to the table, but I guess we could only figure out once we get there. So if you do want to stay up to date on this topic, make sure to subscribe, because if he does come out with some like new crazy information or something, I'll make sure to cover that as well. But as of right now, that's pretty much honestly where the situation sits. Twomad dead from a suspected overdose at the age of 23 with a ton of allegations following soon after his death. If you also made it this far in the video, literally 0% of you are subscribed, so make sure to subscribe. But with that said, that's pretty much it on today's topic, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.